Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Bellier, and today I'm going to show you how you can reformat and quickly edit your photos in Photoshop so that way you can easily upload it to your website such as Squarespace or Wix, or even just optimize them to make them smaller, to make them load quicker on your social media platforms, and most importantly, just having great quality images of your artwork. So the images that I'm going to show you today are ones that I have scanned in, and they look fine. They were scanned in at a really high resolution. So I think it was like 300 to 400 DPI. And basically they're just raw files that I haven't really messed around with too much, but I want to get them to a point that I have a couple different file types, that I have something like a large file, something that stays true to the 300 DPI. And in case I need to print it for whatever reason in the future, I always have that file. And then a secondary file that's web optimized. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in Photoshop because that's the way that I do this process most often. And I use it not just for my website, but also just to kind of get into that good habit of keeping a good track of your artwork as you create it. It's something that all creative people should do, always have like a running record of their work. And it's useful for a lot of different applications, such as applying for a gallery show, applying for residencies, and so much more. So we're going to go over kind of the basics of that today. It shouldn't take too long. And again, just something to practice on your pathway as a creative person. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now Photoshop is open. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you can kind of see I have my doc is open. I have my recent files, but I want to go ahead and open one that was previously a scan and that just doesn't quite have the right color profile. So I have some already lined up here, but maybe I'm going to choose, I think I'm going to choose this one here. So it might be in the same file. It might not be. Let's find out. Okay, so make sure it's in the right file. I'm just going to go to open, and I already have these saved in like a special area. So I'm just going to go to my disk drive, and then I have artwork scans, and I have a few that have not been edited fully. So I'm going to go ahead and open some of those up. Some of these sold ones, actually. So you'll see from my file systems, it's good to be organized. It's super helpful. These ones have sold, and I didn't quite get to clean them up to use them on my website. So I want to make sure that I have a good record of them. And they are a little strange, so just bear with me. These were from my Yellowstone years, and I was in like a very funky creative place. So you'll get to see that. So I'm just going to open this one, click open. And it should just take a minute here. And what we're going to see here is essentially the raw file. So I can see that my blacks are not super dark. This was a ballpoint pen with like some gouache and I believe some watercolor and India ink. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit by hitting Command minus or Control minus. And I can see a couple of things off the bat. First, it needs to be rotated. So I'm going to go to image rotation, 90 degrees clockwise. And then I can also see that there's a black strip on the left-hand side here that I'm just going to crop out. So there's a number of different ways that you can kind of adjust it. Hopefully your image is straight, but there are ways that you can line up your rulers and guides. But I'm just going to show a really simple cropping method. And essentially you just go to your panel on the left-hand side, you find your crop tool, or you can hit C. Creative Cloud has this really great quickness to it now where you can use shortcuts both on Mac and PC. So I'm going to zoom in just a little tiny bit, so Command plus, and that way I can just kind of gauge like how much do I need to move it over. And I can simply just click and drag from there, trying not to cut out too much of my image or take away any of the integrity. And then on the right-hand side, it's a little bit hard to see, but there is a black strip. So I can click and drag that over. And I think there might have been something on the bottom, but just to kind of see what this looks like, I'm going to hit the enter. And yeah, I can see it. So if I hold down the space bar, it gives me this hand symbol you can see, and I can just kind of click and drag around. I think I have to be zoomed in. So you can hold down the space and then move around a little bit. And actually, I'm not seeing it. So maybe it was just a trick of the eye, but up top, I am seeing the black strip. If you find that the background of your Photoshop is the wrong color for your image, so right now you see mine is like this light gray, you can right click on the background and change the color. So right now mine's light gray. If it was black, it wouldn't be very helpful because I can't see this black line. So I went ahead and changed mine to the light gray. And to get back into crop, I can just click directly on my image, and I can just click and drag the little anchors. And again, not taking away too much as to not destroy the integrity or the composition, just a little bit. And then I'm going to click enter. And now I'm seeing it on the right hand side too. So it's kind of interesting. So you really have to kind of be focused and make sure that you're cropping things in properly, because otherwise it will show up on your website. So from here, I'm just kind of doing a little detail look, scrolling through. You can also pop open your navigation panel. And I'm going to go ahead and, oh, it's on the run now. I'm going to hit Command 0 to put it all in the picture frame, and then just click enter. And so from there, we're going to do some really minimal adjustments just to help it look a little bit better. So right now I didn't do anything to it. If you look in your layers panel, you should only have one layer. And then if you want to check things like your image size, you can just go into image size, and you can see kind of what you're working with. So right now I have a really large file. It's pretty big. It's 300 DPI. So this will be good for if I ever decide to print an exact replica of this piece. You can see the dimensions are 10 by 14, almost 15 inches right here. And that's pretty true to what the actual image size was. So that's okay for now. It's really big, but I'm going to save one version of this image as a large file. So I'm going to click OK. But first thing, I want to go ahead and make just a simple edit to it. And I honestly don't do too much when I'm editing my photos for my website, because if you capture it properly via a scanner or a camera that's set up with nice lighting and accuracy, you shouldn't have an issue. So I like to go to the adjustments panel. Anytime you don't see certain panels in Photoshop, you can go to Window and then find the panel you're looking for and click it. Like earlier I mentioned Navigator, so I would click Window, Navigator, and then now this window pops up, which can be super helpful, but I like to have Command 0 selected so I can see the whole image. And a lot of times it's using icons. So this is a really quick brush through Photoshop. So if you're not familiar, I know there's a lot of content out there that you can kind of feel more comfortable with it. But as far as quick adjustments, I'm going to go to the adjustments panel, and then I'm going to go to my levels. So Photoshop's great because if you hover over particular areas, you'll see a new text information pop up that says what you're doing. And so I like to go to levels to start. So that's the second one from the top, and you just click it. And in your properties panel, you'll have a whole new kind of dialog box pop up. And essentially properties is a new addition to the Creative Cloud, where anytime you click an adjustment, it has a new properties box, and it's super easy to use. What I like to do is essentially check out this graph here, and I'll move my dark points and my light points and my middle points. I like to start with the dark points, and every graph will be a little bit different. It's kind of compiling the pixel information, so you have to decide how are you going to get your artwork to look as similar as it should in real form. So I don't want to make my artwork look better. I want it to be as close as possible to how I visually see it and how I have created it. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're going to be showing your work. You want to make sure it matches, because if your photo of your work looks better than the actual work, then you might have some issues with some galleries and opportunities and things. So going back to the levels, I like to kind of play first with the dark point and kind of move that to fit the actual color palette that I have. So I can see it's already like creating that nice contrast. And then I like to go to the white point on the right, just this arrow over here. And you can click and drag. You can see it gets pretty exaggerated. So the amount of adjustments that you need to do are pretty minimal. And again, just going back to like trying to make it look exactly as the actual art piece does. I don't often move the middle one around too much because I feel like by doing the dark point and the light point, the middle one just kind of fills itself in. But if something's not matching up, you can always try that. A secondary one that I will sometimes use is the selective color. And I don't think this one needs it, but I'll show you anyway. So if you go to adjustments and then you go to the third row on mine, and it looks kind of like a box with 4 shades in it, you click that. And say maybe my red is looking too pink, too magenta. So I could go into my colors, again in the properties panel, and I can select reds. And then I can go and say, okay, I don't want it to look quite as pink as it is. So I'll go to my magenta panel and I can kind of take that away, right? So it's really a great tool for the digital artist because you can really change things around, but it doesn't quite need it for mine. If I were to adjust anything, it might be the blue of the ballpoint pen. So I can go into the cyans or the blues. And again, it's just selecting a particular color or pixel information in your piece and adjusting it. So if I go to blues, I can maybe bump them up so they look a little bit darker. And you can see, I think this is supposed to be a beard, but you can see it's a kind of changing that a little bit. And I think that's like looking pretty close to what the image looks like. So I'm not adjusting it too much. I think this actually looks really great, and I'm so happy I took a photo or a scan of this before selling it, because otherwise that information, you know, how am I going to ask somebody to give me back my artwork kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as it is, as a super large file, just for in case in the future if I need to print it or if I want to rework this image for a digital piece. So I'm just going to go to File and then Save As. And right now it's saving as a PSD. And that's fine. I might even just do that out of habit, because that way I can always go back and edit those individual layers. So if we exit out for a second here, if I have my layers panel showing, you can see that I have several working layers. And it might be nice to come back to. So one option is to select all these by clicking your layers, holding down Shift, and then right click and going to Flatten. And that way it compresses all the information. But because I want to save it as a Photoshop document, if I keep all my layers, when I open this image back up, those layers will still be there. So I'm going to go ahead and just click File, Save As. And then I'm going to call this one, so it's a drawing. I'm trying to come up with a good system for naming everything. So it's a drawing from Yellowstone era. And I think that was like 2016. So I'm guessing, but hopefully you have a better system for remembering your name. So drawing Yellowstone 2016, and maybe a description of what's in it. So I have the, I guess he's a hunter, hunter with lion. And I'll go ahead and just click save. And so now I have this saving as a PSD doc. And then from there, I want to make it smaller. I want to have something workable, right? So I can go ahead and go into my layers panel and click my bottom layer, click to the top, and it should have all 3 selected, as you can see from the gray. And then I'll go to Flatten Image. So now they're all one layer. You can see it. Oh, it doesn't want to turn off because it's locked if I unlock it. So it can turn on and turn off. And it's all one layer now. So I'm going to go to Image, Image Size, and because I want it available for the web, I'm going to go ahead and start off with resolution and type in 72. That's usually a really good resolution for the web. It's going to load faster. I've seen people use like 150, 140, but this one's worked great for me, and that's the resolution of the screen, so you should be fine. What's great in this image size dialog is you can zoom in, zoom out, and see how it's looking. So this is 100%, but I still need to change the width. So you should always do your resolution first, and then for Squarespace in particular, I think their recommendation is 1200 to 1500 for your width. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 1500 because that's what I've been using for all mine. And you can see it's still kind of a big file, and we'll go ahead and fix that in a little bit here. So right now it's at 8.8, almost 9 megabytes, but it was at 41. So right now it has the file kind of dimensions that I would like it to have. So 1500 for your width, and this is larger, but that's just how it goes. You always want to make sure this is selected. So it's just saying that it's adjusting the width in appropriate ratio to the height. So by deselecting and selecting it, I kind of changed the numbers. So I'm going to fix that. So remember I said 1200, or no, I think I did 1500. And it's changing it accordingly. So if this isn't selected, it's going to change it kind of out of proportion. It also changed my resolution. So be careful when you click around. So 72, 1500, and then we'll click OK. And from here, you can kind of get an idea of what you're working with if you look at your image. And then also if you go to the lower left hand, it'll say it's at 18%. And remember I said this is still kind of a big file, so we're going to make it a little bit more optimized for the web. And the way I do that is pretty simple. I'll just go to File, Export, and then Save for Web. And from here, it's going to give me a 4-up option of different JPEG sizes. So I like to have the 4-up just so I can kind of visually see how things are looking. People like to do the 2-up, but I like to have my options. And then there's the optimized version, and this is just kind of nicer, in my opinion. You kind of get the whole grasp. So it depends. Do you want to save it as a JPEG or a PNG? I usually do one or the other depending on the application, or I'll do a couple different versions. JPEG's going to be losing some information. PNG will be less compressed. So it's kind of up to you. I know it's a lot of information, but this is one way to do it, and I'll also show you how to do the PNG. So right now it's a JPEG. If I click over here, it's the original one. You can see the size of it, 11.7. This one's pretty small. It's still looking like really good, especially for a website. But you can also kind of change things over here. So JPEG, we want it high or very high. How big does that make it? So it only makes it a little bit bigger if I look right here. You want it to be your RGB because it's going to be on a computer, and then you can go ahead and click save. And right now it's saving it in the same spot, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And it's saved already. So you can see right now it's at 50%. If we go to image size, everything's the same. You know, it's a little bit, it's still the big file, right? So it's saved an extra version of it, if that makes sense. And then say I want to also have a PNG file. So I can also go to File, Export, Quick Export as a PNG. And again, PNG is something that won't have quite as much kind of information that gets lost. And it's just nice to have multiple files that you can kind of work with. And, oh, oopsie, hang on one second. Quick export as a PNG. Huh, that's interesting. So something's going on here. I'm just going to go ahead and save it over here where it was originally at. Sometimes stuff like this happens. So yeah, computers are fun. I'm just going to click save. And then I can go ahead and go to I'll share my screen of my Squarespace, and we can go ahead and upload the new image. So if I go to Squarespace, and then I go to my pages, and I'm going to have this one in mixed media. And it's all still a work in progress, my Skillshare page. So you'll have to pardon the dust. But so I went ahead and just clicked my page that I wanted to go on, and then the page is open. I clicked edit. And then from there, I have my kind of pictures, my images of my artwork. They're not all perfect just yet, but I think they're getting there. So this one is mixed media. I can go ahead and hover over my gallery and then click on the photo. And then from there, I have my gallery. All the images pop up. I can click the plus sign right here, upload image, and then I can go ahead and find my newly optimized image. So right here I have it. You can see it's the JPEG file that we just made today, which is, what day is it? It's February the 4th. So I can go ahead and click that and then go and click open. And if I scroll to the bottom, I can see that this image is going to start loading, and it's a good file size, it's good dimension, it's good pixels. It's going to load really quick. So it's just really good habit, good routine for all artists, all creatives to keep track of their work as they're making work, because otherwise it's going to be messy. Just take it from me in my experience. A lot of these pieces are from 2016 and I'm just now doing this. I've fallen in and out of like my practice of record keeping. So I highly recommend it just because it's going to save you a headache in the end. And it's just good like self-management and routine practice for what you're making out there. So now if we go to the website, it's kind of open. I have my gallery, and then I can scroll to the very bottom and see my new image is right there. So I think that looks pretty good. You can see I did miss a little bit on the bottom. So it's a thing you have to fix. You have to kind of see what you're doing, how you're doing it. And sometimes it works out really easy. Other times it does not. And it's just great to have a good collection of images. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you have a little bit more confidence behind how to resize your images for your website, for different online applications. And also, you can find me teaching on Skillshare, a variety of printmaking classes. So if you feel intrigued by any of this, feel free to check out the links below and see what else is going on. And I thank you all so much and wishing you a lovely day.